Welcome to C21 Drive Time. Our team of realtors will be sharing industry news and insights, the occasional interview with interesting people, and some of the most unreal real estate stories you have ever heard. And here's our host.
So C21 Drive Time podcast, Aaron Rollick here with Chris Hassel.
It's present.
Ryan Topley.
Topper.
All members of the Drive team. And I want to talk to you guys today. One of the questions that I get asked, and you probably get asked, is how do we run the place? What goes into operating a real estate office, a real estate brokerage? Of course, Chris, you're the managing partner here at Drive, and I kind of sit back and just watch you pull your hair out and have a couple heart attacks a week. And Ryan, you ran your own brokerage in the past, so that's why I got you two guys here. And Chris, we'll start with you being the office manager, and I guess the pushing brains behind Drive is. You know, what goes into making this place tick?
That's a big question. We got to keep this in a short amount of time. You got to remember that when I started in the business, we were running. If you had to send an offer out to let's say a buyer was in Saskatoon, we were to the point where you still had to mail them the contract. Fax was just starting to come in. I mean, I sound like a dinosaur in saying this. So it's terrible. I never had my first cell phone until I was the second or third year in the business. And back then, when you talked for 8 seconds, it was $5,000. Like it was like, whoa. So we've seen it change a lot over the years. There's no doubt. I've got an innovation in innovation in tech. It's a whole new buying experience. So what is it versus now versus then? I've been an owner or a participant in this industry now for just about 30 years, and I bought into my share in C21 in 2001. So it's been a long go and seen a lot of changes. As the manager here, my biggest role, I believe, is to, this sounds corny, but to empower the agents. And by saying that is we're all individual salespeople and almost individual contractors under the big tent. Mm-hmm. C21 Drive is the big tent. And we all have our client base, we all have people that we're going to deal with, and we all have our individual businesses under the big broad tent. So my job is obviously to keep the collective herd running, and it's like herding cats some days because we're all entrepreneurs, we all beat at our own drum, we all do different things, but at the end of the day we still want to make sales, take care of the clients, and do it in an honest, integral way. So in doing that, then my next job is to say, how do we inspire, how do we empower, and how do we keep those people engaged and wanting to go to that next level, whether it's a sales level, whether it's selling something different or new, whether it's you're now a residential person, but you're doing some of your first commercial work. Like there's always growth. So as a manager, you got to keep on the edge of that growth to keep the person pushing to say, okay, you're good at this. Cool. Let's keep you moving and growing. Because this business, you could study it for a lifetime and never know it all. And it just, between the change and a market's a market, it's never the same any 2 days in a row. So, we take that and we run a small business out of it. And that's one way to articulate it, I guess, is I'm like the head coach of the hockey team.
Yep.
Or any team, per se. Yeah.
Well, and we've had some conscious discussions about that around here is providing tools, providing opportunities, and helping grow. I know, Ryan, you came to us as a very experienced agent, and now we've watched a few newer agents in our office come and kind of learn the ropes. And I know you've been through that in your thing and in your career, and so maybe touch on your experiences in terms of helping guide new agents and balancing that balancing the life with experienced agents versus young ones.
It's it's funny. One thing I found stepping out on my own and doing your own brokerage is you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it, if that makes any sense. I remember I'd gone and got everything set up, and you're plugging along, and you're licensed to be the broker, and you're running everything, and it's great. And then there's all this back end stuff that you realize, I've never had to do this before. I've never had to reconcile trust accounts. I've never had to
pay the heating bill.
Well, that was part of it, but I found more of the transactional end of things. I mean, your paperwork, you know how that works, but it's the back end of it that I think the realtors don't see. Not just the public doesn't see it, but the realtors don't see it either. Of I've got to make sure these trust accounts reconcile. I've got to make sure that everything's in place if there's an audit. I got to make sure everything's intact, and things that I think on the day-to-day basis the average realtor doesn't think about or doesn't realize. And then you touched on a good point too with training new people. I was very, very lucky, and I've said this to everybody, that I was very, very lucky, very fortunate that when I started out in Red Deer, our broker / owner was our manager. She didn't sell. She strictly ran the office. So the nice part was that, and I hated it at the time, she made you ride around with somebody for about the first 6 months. So you got to go, you basically just pounded signs in the ground for 6 months and listened to them talk. But it was really good because you got to see and interact with a whole bunch of different people. And she didn't let us go with just one guy. I went with a couple different guys over the 6 months, and you were allowed to do your own stuff as well. But there were certain periods of time you had to dedicate X amount of hours to going with them and learning, the ropes, so to speak.
Right.
And it's great. And kind of the flip side of that is that's a really nice thing to do. And I wish that was available everywhere, but it's not. The reality is most brokerages aren't that size, aren't that, where you have, 87 people working there and a person managing can do that. But the training is essential. You guys do a great job with the training here. I know the new guys coming in have a lot of experience they can lean on. But that was one thing that shocked me was how little you don't know until you don't know it.
Yeah. I've, for myself personally, as I've become more experienced, I've really kind of almost shifted focus to help the newer agents in the office and just be available. Just be available and encourage them to ask questions, bring problems forward, have a conversation, whether it's myself or sending them to you, Ryan, or most often to Chris, or even Rita Baxter in our office, who's got a wealth of knowledge as well. And Chris and I have talked about it, and we've said it in the meetings. Like, we really want to look at this as a we before me attitude. We want you all to go out. We want you all to make a great living, have a fabulous life. But we're all going to go in the same direction. And Chris, you've talked about rowing the boat in the same pace.
And that was maybe the difference between what, years and years ago when I started. It was the old school style of managerial style, which was pound the desk and say, get out there and knock on doors and do that. I look at our crew right now and I say, I just like to empower and have fantastically well-rounded individuals, meaning that they're productive when they get here. They're fantastic with their families. They're good community people. If we touch on all those areas and make them great people, the sales will come.
Yeah. 100%.
Where, that was not the case 20, 30 years ago. It was more old school, scare fear tactic, get out there, get stuff done. I didn't like it. I didn't like it back then. I still don't like it today. Mm-hmm. So our philosophy is, you're right, it's a we, not an I. And because of that, it's to say, that's why we're doing this podcast, just to learn more about us, learn more about the community. The whole thing is giving back. And by doing that, then we have people that are productive and they're known and they're seen as trusted ambassadors in our community. Doesn't matter if you're at the volleyball court or Ryan's at the hockey rink or I'm out in the community doing whatever I'm doing. We're seen as professionals, but yet with that other side as well-rounded individuals. If I'm a good dad, I'm a good realtor. If I'm a good community person, I'm a good realtor. And I have a very different management philosophy and style to have people grow rather than just say sales, sales, sales. Now, we obviously need sales to make the ship run, but fundamentally we need to get that right. And then, the rest will take care of itself, so to speak. Yeah,
I often think back to, everybody's probably seen it. You see the picture pop around Instagram and memes and stuff of the guy riding on the cart with the people pulling, and he's got the whip. And that's assuredly not our style, where we're the first one on the back of the cart, pushing it, getting everything going in the right direction. And that's one of the philosophies we have here at Drive is, I guess, to sound corny, we're all gonna drive together.
Well, and it's funny you said that, and Chris makes a good point, the way it's changed, because, and finding your own style, not just as an office, but as an individual. Because I remember starting out, I'll never forget day one of real estate. We're all shirt and tie, we're all looking real nice, and we're sitting in the little room in Red Deer there, and the lady running the place comes and drops a bunch of phone books in front of us. And I'm thinking, okay, what's this about, right? And it's basically you had to make X amount of cold calls, and you had to report them with her on, such and such a day, and you had to have so many cold calls made, and you had to let her know how you made out. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is not what I signed up for. Like, if I have to do this forever, I'm going to die. And actually, funny enough, Gavin, who we had on the podcast there a while ago, him and I used to have to do this together. So we'd go in at nights and we'd back to back and basically buy pizza and dare each other to make these cold calls just to get through, because it was terrible. We hated it.
Yeah.
And I remember checking in with her after, I think it was about week 4. You had to do this for a certain period of time. I remember checking in with her and I said, if this is what it is, I quit. Like, I'm not harassing people on the phone. They tell you to, everything under the sun. They hang up on you. I hated life. And she goes, good. Don't do it anymore. You had to try it. It's not your style. Find what works for you. I'm like, that was one nasty lesson. But thank you. You know, the big picture, I look at it now going, thank you.
Yeah.
At the time, I was like, this sucks so bad.
Yeah.
But, you know, find your way, right? And like you said, I think you guys do a real good job here of empowering people to find what works for you. You know, we're all different people. And I'm sure Chris can attest to this, Aaron can too, that you're going to bring in people who are like you.
Yep.
You know, and so don't try and be something you're not. Be real, and you're going to find those same people are going to be drawn to you.
Yeah. We encourage that through the use of obviously social media. We community involvement. When you go to the rink, be who you are.
Yeah.
When you go to the grocery store, you know, you're always going to bump into clients. My wife always says, "Oh, can we run to the store?" And I'm like, "Well, what am I wearing?" Because I will always bump into somebody at the grocery store. I know. So, you know, do you want your Crocs on and you're disheveled looking or what? But it's a matter of how you broadcast your content, and who you are will attract the people that are like-minded and say, I want to work with that person because maybe they like hockey, or maybe they're volleyball fans, or whatever it is that is your shtick.
Yeah.
Stick to that. And then the like-minded individuals will come to you. It'd be a good marriage. It's a tough selling, to an apple when you're an orange.
Absolutely.
It's always a little trickier. You can be done, but it's the flow is definitely different.
Absolutely.
You lost me at admitting to wearing Crocs.
Oh, it's hot. Yeah,
I was just having to hear Crocs are cool again.
They're
I was
not.
ahead of the trend.
They're
I was ahead of the
not.
trend.
They're not.
Let me have my cool thing, okay?
No.
cool dad stuff. Yeah,
That's right.
That and those New Balance runners. When we get to a certain
Oh,
age,
nice.
we'll wear those to.
I can't. I think I got some of them in the closet. I'll dig back out.
White New Balance runners. Yeah, it's all good. So in running a brokerage, Aaron, maybe we should get Century 21 Drive Crocs. So, anyways,
Now you're talking.
you're right. In running a brokerage, it's an interesting thing because it doesn't matter if it's the clients that we have, is the people we have underneath the big tent. It's just a people business, and there's a lot of aspects and moving parts, as Ryan alluded to, saying, I never understood how many things behind the scenes that we do.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of it, it's all about helping people. Doesn't matter
Absolutely.
if we're helping our staff, if we're helping the client get to their home. That's what we're in it for. We're in a people game. If you don't like people, this is a cruel business.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, you might as well put your finger in a pencil sharpener. It's about that fun.
Yeah, it's not a business where true introverts survive. You've got it. You'd have to be very ninja about it and find your other introverts to deal with. But
Yep.
I think that's the one thing I've noticed. Probably 99% of the realtors I meet are people. They're people.
Type A go-getter.
You got to be an entrepreneur. This is almost the truest form of entrepreneurship, because every day we start at zero. Yeah. So you just say, okay. And for the people that love certainty, so introverts and certainty, if you love certainty and you have to have it in your life to do that, this is a wickedly cruel business for you, because there's no 2 days are the same. 100%. Never, ever, ever. I mean, I've been at this a long time, so the three of us together collectively is a big number. There's no 2 days the same.
No.
Never, ever.
So I'll kind of wrap it up with I've said it before, the conversation I have almost every morning with my wife when she says, what are you doing today? I said, I don't know.
Yeah, no idea.
Tell you at the end of the day.
Yeah, and because I might have 3 or 4 things scheduled, but everything could go off the rails, and we love it. That's why we're in this business. So, guys, thanks for sitting down today. A quick chat on behind the scenes at C21 Drive. For those of you tuning in, thank you so much for being part of the C21 Drive Time podcast. Like and subscribe. Listen to us on all the podcast platforms, and we'll talk to you soon.